Welcome to Quantum. Today we won't be discussing theoretical, mathematical, or philosophical physics, but rather the metaphysical underpinnings and shortcomings of evolutionary theory and how they deeply affect the philosophy of the human condition. This is a subject of strong personal interest. But I should make it clear, I am not an expert in the fields of evolution, history, genetics, or linguistics. However, what I present here is not a theory and not a belief, but a paradox rooted in evolution, history, genetics, and language that have disturbed my thoughts for years. I call it the Generalized Fermi paradox. Inspired by the original question, where is everybody? I extend that same tension to human origins, civilization, and thought. And I want to be clear, this is not about race. This is not about religion. This is not about language. This is not about superiority or exclusion. All I seek is understanding. And these are the 7 questions that haunt me. Why did life emerge on Earth and nowhere else in the universe? Why did Homo sapiens evolve in Africa and not in other fertile regions like the Amazon? Why did agriculture begin with the Natufians and civilization with the Sumerians before anyone else? How did advanced civilizations arise independently in the Americas despite total isolation from the Old World? Why do prophets appear only among Semitic peoples? Why do Semitic languages belong to the Afroasiatic family when their speakers are genetically distinct? Why did rational scientific thought emerge so powerfully in Indo-European civilizations, especially Greece? Each question is a paradox. Each paradox is a window. The first-order Fermi paradox. Where is everybody? Or where is life hiding in the cosmos? First, the classical version, the beginning of all questions. Why did life emerge here, on this small rocky planet, circling an average star in an unremarkable corner of a galaxy among hundreds of billions? Why Earth? Why now? Why us? Every law of nature that gave rise to life here exists elsewhere. Hydrogen is universal. Carbon chemistry is universal. Gravity, light, time, they are everywhere. And yet, silence. We point our telescopes to the stars. We scan the skies for signals. But no civilizations answer. No other voice replies. This is the original Fermi paradox. Where is everybody? Is life incredibly rare or incredibly short-lived? Or is intelligence always self-destructive? Or perhaps the universe is not silent, it is indifferent. Or worse, it is structured so that we are meant to feel alone. The first paradox is not about aliens, it is about existence itself. Because if life could emerge anywhere, but it only did here, then this world is not just alive, it is chosen. And that changes everything. The second-order Fermi paradox. Where are the other humans? Or where is the Homo sapiens of Amazonia? Second, why did Homo sapiens evolve in Africa specifically? Not in Asia, not in Australia. And, most perplexing of all, not in the Amazon basin, a region far larger, older, and biologically richer than any African rainforest. Why didn't the miracle of humanity happen twice? We know life is resilient. We know evolution is adaptive. We are told it is a blind, gradual force, tinkering endlessly, generating variations, selecting for fitness. So then why did it converge into us only once? Why did anatomically modern humans emerge solely in one region, from one lineage, at one moment, tens of thousands of years ago? This is the second-order Fermi paradox. Where are the other humans? Where is the parallel Homo sapiens of the Amazon? Where is the alternate cognitive awakening in Papua? Where is the failed prophet of Australia? We had Homo floresiensis, Homo erectus, Neanderthals, Denisovans, but all of them were dead ends. None of them made it. Only we did, and only once. If evolution is as impartial and probabilistic as we say, then the emergence of sapiens-like cognition should be recurrent, but it wasn't. It was singular, a spike in time, a biological Big Bang. To me, this represents the deepest vulnerability in the theory of evolution, or more precisely, in the out-of-Africa hypothesis as it currently stands, because it implies that consciousness, the very thing we are, was not a likely outcome. It was an accident, a cosmic dice roll that landed upright once and never again. Why didn't it happen elsewhere? Why didn't it happen again? Unless perhaps we are not the product of evolution alone, but of something else, something rarer, something harder to explain. The third-order Fermi paradox. Where are the other beginnings of civilization? Or how did the Natufian discover agriculture and the Sumerian invent civilization? Third, why did agriculture begin in the Levant with the Natufians? And why did civilization itself begin in southern Iraq with the Sumerians? These are not separate stories. The Natufians were the first to settle, to plant, to domesticate. The Sumerians were the first to write, to govern, to build a state. Agriculture didn't begin in China or India or Africa. It began in Natufia 12,000 years ago. And civilization didn't begin in Egypt or Persia or Anatolia. It began in Sumer 5,000 years ago. These are the twin foundations of human history, the Neolithic and the civilizational revolutions. But they happened once, in one corridor, and from there, everything spread. The Natufians seeded Anatolia, then Europe. They back-migrated into North Africa and the Maghreb. They expanded into Iran, India, and perhaps China. The Sumerians inspired Egypt, Elam, the Indus, and beyond. All later civilizations borrowed from them, in form, in script, in structure. So we ask, where are the other Natufians? Where are the other Sumerians? This is the third-order Fermi paradox. Where are the other parallel beginnings of civilization? If agriculture was a natural discovery and civilization a natural outcome of it, then why did both begin only once? Why there? Why then? It's as if humanity passed through two bottlenecks, one biological, one cultural. One rooted in the land, the other in the mind. And both bottlenecks passed through the same region. The fourth-order Fermi paradox. How did a second civilizational leap occur, in total isolation, in the Americas? Or where were the bridges, cultural or cosmic, between the old and new worlds? Fourth, how did great civilizations rise independently in the Americas, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incas? There was no contact, no trade, no exchange. Yet somehow they built temples, cities, calendars. Egypt, India, China, we understand them through diffusion. But how did Sumerian knowledge leap across oceans? This is the fourth-order Fermi paradox. Where is the missing bridge between the old world and the new? We might say civilization is a lesser miracle than evolution. So it makes sense that it happened twice while evolution only once. But is that really true? What if civilization is not just buildings and tools, but cognition expanding beyond the body? Writing is memory externalized, law is reason structured, myth is the unconscious projected, civilization is mind turned outward. If so, then it is not a lesser miracle, it is a second cognitive singularity. The first gave us thought, the second gave us history. So how did this second leap happen twice, in Mesopotamia, and again in Mesoamerica? Who carried the spark across the ocean? Or does mind remember itself, even when the body is lost? The fifth-order Fermi paradox. Why does divine revelation appear only through one genetic and linguistic stream? Or where are the other prophets? Fifth, why do prophets appear only among Semitic peoples? The Hebrews received nearly all, Moses, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and the Arabs received the rest, Muhammad, Hud, Salih, Shu'aib. That's over 90% of all known prophetic figures, contained within one lineage, one region, one language family. But what about the others? Where are the prophets of the Berbers, of the Turks, the Persians, the Chinese, the Indians, the Slavs, the Greeks? This is the fifth-order Fermi paradox. Why does revelation appear only through one genetic and linguistic channel? The traditional answer is spiritual or theological, but from a civilizational point of view, it raises a deeper question. Is monotheism ethnically encoded? Did something happen in the Semitic mind, in the desert environment, in the structure of Semitic language itself, that made it uniquely suited to compress the cosmos into one word? And if so, was the prophetic voice shaped by biology? Or did it emerge from a linguistic architecture tuned for revelation? Why did no prophet speak Nahuatl? Why was no Torah written in Tamil? Why was no Quran revealed in Chinese? Or were there other prophets, forgotten, ignored, or never recognized, because they came through the wrong genome or the wrong tongue? The sixth-order Fermi paradox. Where are the original languages of the Semitic peoples? Or how did the Semites preserve Afroasiatic languages for the descendants of Ham? Sixth, this is the most technical, but perhaps the most disturbing of all. Why do so-called Semitic languages, Arabic, Hebrew, Aramaic, Babylonian, belong to the Afroasiatic language family? And why are they spoken by people whose dominant Y DNA is J1, when Afroasiatic languages are historically associated with the E1B1B lineage? How is Arabic, genetically speaking, not a Semitic language? The deeper we look, the stranger it gets. The Afroasiatic family, Berber, Cushitic, Ancient Egyptian, Chadic, all trace back to the early E1B1B populations, originating in the Green Sahara, but often associated with the Natufians of the Levant, who later spread farming, language, and symbolic thought back into North Africa. But J1, Semitic, arrives later. It doesn't create the language. It inherits it. This means that Arabic, Hebrew, and their cousins may not be the original languages of the Semitic peoples at all. They are Afroasiatic tongues, adopted by a genetically distinct group. This is the sixth-order Fermi paradox. Where are the true Semitic languages? The languages of the J1 carriers, before they adopted the cultural superstructure of the E1B1B world? Were they lost? Or were they erased, outcompeted by a richer symbolic system? Did the Semites overwrite history, or did they submit to it? The entire concept of a Semitic language family may be misnamed. In biblical terms, the sons of Shem came to speak the tongue of their uncle Ham, and when the Semites later brought Arabic to the Maghreb, they were, perhaps unknowingly, returning the language of Ham to his own descendants. What we call Semitic may be a branch of Afroasiatic that was simply absorbed by Semitic speakers, leaving behind a linguistic illusion, a category that conflates gene with grammar, descent with diction. So we ask once more, where are the true Semitic languages? What did the first J1 speakers really sound like before they spoke with another people's voice? The seventh-order Fermi paradox. Where are the other Greeks? Or where did the Greeks themselves get their science, their philosophy, their rationality? Seventh, we've seen that prophets appear almost exclusively among Semitic peoples. But there is a mirror to this paradox, another pattern, just as strange. Where did rational scientific thought arise? Where did philosophy, geometry, logic, atomism, and astronomy begin? The answer is Greece, and more broadly, the Indo-European world. In this case, evolution seems to act with unusual intensity, as if an intellectual aggressiveness endures, echoing the spirit of the original Yamnaya culture, from which much of the Indo-European world descends. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Euclid, Archimedes, Pythagoras, Democritus, Epicurus, Eratosthenes. Later, the same intellectual DNA resurfaces in India with the Vedic and Nyaya schools, Rome, Germany, France, England, the Enlightenment. So now we ask, where are the other Greeks? Where is the independent rise of critical, abstract, rational thought in non-Indo-European civilizations? Why did the grammar of logic emerge in Indo-European tongues, while the grammar of revelation emerged in Semitic ones? This is the seventh-order Fermi paradox. Why does the scientific mind appear mostly in one linguistic and historical stream? Did something in the structure of Indo-European languages, with their cases, their tense systems, their metaphysical abstractions, enable a kind of cognitive geometry? Just as the Semitic triliteral root system may have encoded revelation into the bones of speech, did Indo-European syntax encode deduction and rational structure? And if so, then where are the missing civilizations that could have birthed their own Pythagoras, their own Newton, their own Kant? Or is the scientific mind, like the prophetic voice, a singularity? Once given, it spreads, but it rarely, if ever, reappears. This generalized Fermi paradox offers a soft critique of evolution. From cosmic and biological evolution to civilizational and cognitive leaps, the first concerns the emergence of life in the cosmos. The second, the singular rise of Homo sapiens. The third and fourth, the evolution of civilization, once, then mysteriously again. The fifth, the evolution of revelation and monotheism. The sixth, the divergence between language and genetic descent. The seventh, the evolution of rationality and scientific thought. I am not an expert in genetics, I am not an anthropologist, and I am certainly not a linguist. But these are not questions for specialists only. These are equations that each of us must solve in order to understand our own place in the world. This is not about answers. The power lies in the paradox itself. Thank you for watching. This is Quantum.